What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog, episode 29. In this episode, I've got a fever.
I got a fever. And the only prescription
is more 2-5. That's right. I want to make my return to the 2-5 table. I had so much fun playing it in Orange City last week. I felt very competitive in the game. I liked the way the game played. Only problem, I'm not at all bankrolled for it. And all it would take is a couple huge losses and it would really cripple me. So I'm going to go to Orange City. I'm going to get in the 1-2, but also put my name on the 2-5 to see if I get called. Funny thing, I showed up to Orange City and the 1-2 had a wait list, but there was an open seat waiting for me at 2-5. So I took my seat at 2-5, tried to mix it up a little bit, tried to make some plays. If you enjoy, like, comment, subscribe. Let's get to it. We won't have to wait too long to mix it up. Within my first orbit, I'm in +1 and I look down at pocket aces. Under the Gun opens for $20. He just lost a $600 plus pot. I ask if he's tilting and he says maybe.
Are you on tilt? I guess. Hey, that's a good play, man.
I put in the raise to $70. It folds all the way back around to Under the Gun and he calls. We're off to a flop, heads up. The flop is 3-4-7 with 2 diamonds. My opponent checks it to me and I continue on for $125, but he folds pretty quickly. We're in the cutoff this time and we look down once again at pocket aces. It folds to the hijack who calls, and when the action gets to me, I bump it up to $30. The hijack put a green chip out to call, and I think it made me think that there was more money in the pot than there actually was. So it folds back around to the hijack and he quickly folds. While playing this session, I gained a new subscriber, Toby. He's new to the channel. Welcome, sir. I hope you enjoy the content. We're in the big blind this time and we look down at pocket sevens. +1 opens to $20, +2 makes the call. It folds around to the small blind who also calls, and so I call as well. We're off to a flop 4 ways. The flop is 8-9 queen all diamonds. It checks over to +1 who bets $35, +2 folds, but then the small blind calls. It's back on me. It's only $35 to win over $150, but I don't really beat very much, so I make the fold. After a huge pot where 2 people ended up getting stacked, the game broke down. I had only played for about 2 hours, and I was only down about $110. We were the must-move game. The main game had converted to a 5-5 game, which is a $1,000 buy-in or match the stack. Nobody could really answer that question for me, but I saw a guy sitting over there with like $3,000, so that's a little bit too deep for me. Instead, I'm going to go poke around in 1-2. About 20 minutes in, I found myself down to my last $80 of my buy-in. We're in the small blind and we look down at King 10 offsuit. +1 makes the call. It folds all the way around to the cutoff who calls as well, as does the button. So when the action's on me, I bump it up to $15. +1 and the cutoff make the call, so we're off to the flop 3 ways. The flop is King 8 deuce rainbow. I check and the player in +1 bets $20. The cutoff folds and it's back on me, and I jam all in for 68 total. +1 snaps me off. Uh-oh. The turn is a 5 of spades, the river a 7 of spades, so the backdoor flush got there. I show my hand, and I'm good. We're in the big blind this time, and we look down at King Queen offsuit. Under the Gun limps, and it folds all the way around to the hijack who raises to $9. It folds to me, and I consider putting in a 3-bet, but you've seen my vlog. That move never works at 1-2 for me, so I just make the call. Under the Gun calls as well. We're off to the flop. The flop is ace-ace-8, and the action checks through, so we'll see a turn for free. The turn is a queen, so now I've made 2 pair. I bet out on this card for $15. Under the Gun folds, but the hijack snap calls me. We're off to the river. The river is an 8 of spades, so it double pairs the board. I lead out here for $20. The hijack kind of shrugs, and then he ends up making the call. I show, and he flashes me a queen before he mucks. I wonder if I left a little value out there on the river. We're in +2 and we look down at ace-queen offsuit. It folds to +1 who makes the call, and when the action's on me, I bump it up to $10.
That's right. The tightest player at the table just raised.
The hijack makes the call, the small blind calls, and the big blind calls. +1 folds. We're off to a flop. The flop is King Jack 4, so I've got a straight draw here.
Oh my god, it's such a big flop.
It checks to me, and I lead out for $40, and both my opponents fold. The very next hand, there's a button straddle. We're in +1 and we look down at ace king of hearts. The small blind and the big blind both fold before Under the Gun makes the call. And when the action's on me, I raise to $20. It folds all the way around to the button who calls, as does under the gun, so we're off to the flop 3 ways. The flop is 10 Jack 7. Under the gun checks it over to me, and I can certainly c-bet here, but I want to see what the button does and try to let him make a mistake, so I check. The button checks behind, we're off to the turn. The turn? A queen of hearts, so we get there. And because I checked the flop, I feel the strength of my hand is kind of concealed. So the action checks to me and I put a bet out for $20. Both players make the call, so we're off to the river. The river is a 7 of hearts, so it pairs the board. Under the gun leads on this for $30, leaving himself $8 behind for some reason. So I quickly raise to 100. I'm trying to make it look like I'm bullying under the gun to see if the button wants to try to keep me honest, but the button ends up making the fold. Under the gun sticks in his last $8, I show my hand, and I win. This next hand was a weird one. We're in the small blind and we look down at ace-10 offsuit. Under the gun opens the action for $10 and it folds to the button who calls. I make the call and the big blind calls as well. We're off to a flop 4 ways. The flop is ace high with 2 clubs. I bet $15 on this flop. The big blind folds, under the gun calls and the button calls, so we're off to a turn 3 ways. The turn is a 4. I don't think it really changes too much. I bet out here again for $45, and both under the gun and the button both make the call, so we're off to the river. The river is a 2 of clubs, and it's kind of a scary card as it brings the front door flush in. Seeing as none of my bets have generated a fold yet, I decided to go ahead and check. Under the gun then jams for $186 total. The button folds and it's back on me, and I tank for a full minute and 45 seconds. I just can't put this guy on a hand. It's either the nuts or it's total air. If I call and I'm right, I'm a hero. If I call and I'm wrong, I'm an idiot. And even worse, I put it out on YouTube for everybody to see what an idiot I am.
All right, I'm gonna give you a lot of respect. I'm gonna fold.
So eventually I end up making the fold. He claims to have had the straight, but 3-5 is all that really works there, and I just don't think he had that. So whatever it was, nice hand, sir. While at 1-2, I picked up another new subscriber, Chris. Chris, thanks for checking out the channel. I appreciate it. There's a button straddle. We're in the cutoff, and we look down at 10 Jack offsuit. The small blind folds, but the big blind calls. Under the gun calls as well, as does +2. It folds to me, and I raise to $20. The button makes the call, the big blind folds, but under the gun damn near beats me into the pot, so we're off to the flop 3 ways. The flop is 10 King 4, so I've caught a piece here, and the action's actually going to check all the way through, so we're off to the turn. The turn is a 5 of clubs, and it brings in a club flush draw. Under the gun checks, and +2 bets out for $20 here. I make the call, the button folds, and under the gun folds as well. We're off to a river heads up. The river is a blank, doesn't change anything, and the flush draw bricks out. My opponent in +2 bets out $30, and I snap him off. I still don't really know why, just for whatever reason when he put that bet out, I just didn't think he had it. So I've made the call, he shows pocket 6s, I show, and I win. The very next hand, we're in the hijack and we look down at ace queen of diamonds. Under the gun opens the action to $25, which is a really large raise for 1-2. It folds all the way around to me, and I put the 3-bet in for $75. I want to isolate the under the gun player. He's been loose and admitted that he was bored at the table, so I think he can be doing this kind of light. The button, however, calls. I didn't expect that. Under the gun also calls, we're off to a flop. The flop is 9-6 deuce, all black cards. Under the gun checks, and I consider putting out a c-bet here, but I can see the button stack his chips up for a shove, so I decide to go ahead and just check. He does shove for $180 total. Under the gun folds and it's back on me, and I don't think this is my hand, so I fold. In the final hand of the night, we're in the cutoff and we look down at 4-7 of spades. Under the gun, +1 and +2 all make the call. The action gets to me and I decide to go ahead and call. The button folds, the small blind calls, and the big blind checks. We're off like, 10 ways to a flop. The flop is king high with 2 spades, so I've got a flush draw. It checks to under the gun who bets $8. +1 makes the fold, +2 calls, so I decide to go ahead and call. Both blinds get out of the way, we're off to the turn. The turn is a 7 of diamonds, so I've picked up a little extra equity on this card. The action now checks to me, and I decide to go ahead and bet out for $30. And both my opponents make the fold. It's at this point that I realize I'm so desperate to try to create content that I'm playing hands like 4-7 suited and not even raising with it. I just don't think it's going to be my night for a big hand, so I decided to go ahead and wrap it up for the day.
There was a popular 90s R&B group called TLC who had a song, "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." I think the same can be said about chasing poker profits. You know, just not a super eventful night. Got into that 2-5 game, no super deep stacks or anything, fun table, a lot of action. I've really got the fever for 2-5 and I'm not bankrolled for it, and that's gonna be dangerous because all it takes is one big loss to just absolutely cripple me. But then the game broke at 6:30 and the only other 2-5 that was running had converted to a 5-5 where the max buy-in I think is $1,000 or matched the stack. So little too deep for my pocket, so I played 1-2. I got involved in some hands where I had some action and made a little bit of money, and then had other hands where I just couldn't do anything. And then towards the end, the last hour or so, I was pretty much just card dead. And I got all in jammed on, I think 3 separate times in the last hour. So, I don't know if this is gonna make for a great episode. But I tried to get as much in as I could. I played for about 4 hours. We lost a total of $120 tonight. So over 4 hours, not terrible. I hope it's entertaining for you guys. If you enjoy, like, subscribe, comment. See you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more poker content. And you can follow me on Instagram at 7cardflushpoker.